Hello friends, Tom Downey here for the Seattle Seahawks preseason profile. We'll start off with their key additions, and be warned, if you're a blind homer, you're probably not going to like what I have to say. DJ Fluker comes in. He was not great for the Giants. Maybe Jaron Brown can be a good player. I don't mind Barkevious Mingo either. At defensive end, he can help you out as a depth player. Rashad Penny is a talented player, but I do have concerns about the overall offensive line for the Seattle Seahawks. And in total, not a lot of big moves for Seattle. I didn't love their draft, although Rasheem Green, I think, will be a good replacement for Michael Bennett, who was one of their key losses, alongside guys like Richard Sherman, Jimmy Graham. Both those guys are gone. Cliff Avrill, Kam Chancellor left because of injuries. Look, all in all, Seattle lost a lot more than they gained. They got worse this year. I give their offseason a D. It's not all their fault. You can't bank on Avrill and Chancellor getting hurt, but Seattle got worse. Sheldon Richardson, he leaves. They replace him with Shamar Stephen and Tom Johnson. That's a downgrade. Sherman leaves, Jeremy Lane leaves, and you bring in Dante Johnson and a couple mid-round picks. Jimmy Graham leaves and you replace him with Ed Dickson. It's not an upgrade for Seattle. They got worse at cornerback, defensive tackle, defensive end, and tight end. I'm sorry, Seahawks fans. Your team from last year, when you were one of, I thought, the best teams entering the year, to this team right now, is a steep downgrade. Moving out to the preseason schedule. Week 1 versus the Colts, Week 2 versus the Chargers, Week 3 against the Vikings, and Week 4 versus the Oakland Raiders. The Vikings one, of course, is the key matchup. It is the dress rehearsal game. First up, on offense. Is the offensive line actually better? Tom Cable's gone. I think that'll help, but the offensive line did not bring in that much talent. In the secondary, big question marks almost across the board at cornerback through safety. And we start with some training camp storylines, and the big one's still going on. Earl Thomas and his holdout. Will it end? Will he be traded? What's going on there? Thomas wants a new deal, and from his perspective, rightfully so. He's in the last year of his contract. He just saw his buddy get hurt and end his career. He wants the security of a long-term deal with guaranteed money. Seattle's like, you know what? We're not really buying into this. We're not going to have any contract talks right now since you're not reporting, and we're not going to try to have trade talks either. Thomas wants a new contract or a trade. We are very much at a stalemate right now. I still would lean toward Thomas playing for Seattle this year, but at a certain point, Seattle might try and trade him because they can get more if they trade him right now than if they were to let him leave next year in free agency. Of course, Seattle can also afford Earl Thomas. So the ball is in the Seahawks' court, and we'll see what they decide to do. Give me a 1 if you want Seattle to trade Thomas, 2 if you want to keep him. We'll stick with that secondary, namely, who actually gets on the field? Kam Chancellor, he is out. The only guy I feel truly confident about is Shaquille Griffin. I love him. He is going to be a great cornerback now and in the future for Seattle. But the rest of that, kind of a question mark. Justin Coleman, he's a fine nickel. Bradley McDougald, okay, he's no Kam Chancellor, but you can get by with him. My concern really is, A, what happens if Earl Thomas leaves? Do you trust Hedrick Thompson and or Delano Hill to take over as the back-end pieces in that secondary? And the number 2 cornerback spot is a massive question mark. Byron Maxwell, not the same guy. I am not trusting Dante Johnson. Maybe you want to make Trey Flowers into a thing. Okay, we'll see. I'm not buying that quite yet. Same with Mike Tyson at a UC. And Nico Thorpe, well, if we're banking on him, I think we got bigger issues for Seattle. Moving out to the offensive line, I have harped on this for years, ever since I started here at Chat Sports. The offensive line for Seattle has held this team back. Dwayne Brown, I like him at left tackle. Justin Britt, I like him too. The rest of the spots, big old question marks. Now, in theory, getting rid of Tom Cable should help because he was not good for Seattle. Ethan Pochik could be your left guard. Maybe it's Reese Adhiambo. I don't like DJ Fluker. I know how some of you guys feel about Jermaine Irfedi. It's some question marks. It's not as bad as, say, the Houston offensive line, but I do not trust the Seahawks offensive line. And God forbid, if they get Russell Wilson hurt, this team might not win a game without him because they got nothing at backup quarterback. On to the 2018 schedule. Now, Seattle lost a lot of key pieces. There's still some talent, though. I think the start is going to be essential for Seattle. At Denver, at Chicago, home against Dallas, on the road against Arizona. You want to make a playoff push this year, Seattle? I think you got to go at least 3-1. Because then you play the Rams, at Oakland, at Detroit, home against LA. You could lose 4 straight games or maybe win just the 1. You could be sitting there 4 wins, 3 wins, something like that. All of a sudden, you're in big trouble because then you go at LA in Week 10, home against Green Bay on Thursday Night Football, a short week, at Carolina, home against the 49ers, home against Minnesota, and at San Francisco again. That is a brutal stretch in the middle of the season for the Seahawks. If they have some tough times going on there, they're not going to win many of those games. Yeah, the Chiefs and Cardinals are decent ones to end on, but that is a rough gauntlet that could result in Seattle starting the year hot and then quickly slowing down. As for what Vegas expects, not great. Plus 6,000 odds this year for the Seahawks, and only a third place prediction for me in the NFC West. I simply don't buy Seattle. Those are the tied for fifth worst odds outright in the NFC this year. No one's buying into Seattle out there in Vegas, and frankly, I'm sorry guys, I'm not either. You're not going to like it, but Seattle right now, talent-wise, is closer to the last place team, that's Arizona, than the first place team, be it LA or San Francisco. I'm not buying Seattle this year. You're never really rebuilding when you have a quarterback like Russell Wilson, one of the best in the NFL, but it's pretty close to a rebuild for the Seahawks. They lost a lot of key pieces. Maybe some young guys will step up and they'll surprise a little bit, but I am not buying into Seattle this year. I think they'll finish third in the NFC West and miss the playoffs. Go ahead and follow us on Chat Sports at facebook.com/chatsports for more NFL and Seahawks coverage all season long.